Hello and welcome back to Media7. We're in the familiar setting of the Classic Comedy Club in Auckland, but there are a few changes for 2009. Most notably, our show is nearly twice as long, which means we have more time for discussion and for new features. But one thing hasn't changed. It's still Newsmash time. The Obama-thon was on, and the question on everyone's lips was, how long would it be before John Campbell cried? About 5 minutes, as it turned out. He definitely welled up listening to the black congresswoman from Texas. But there's no doubt that the punt on sending a Campbell live team paid off for TV3. Over the week, they got interviews and brought the story home. They even used that global backpacker standby. But we're from New Zealand, to slip through and get up close and personal at the inauguration parade.
Hearing we were from New Zealand, a Secret Service man let us through. Our cameraman Phil Johnson stood on a giant flower pot.
Say, honey, isn't that John Campbell over there? Back home, there was the inevitable set piece of the inauguration party at the US Embassy in Wellington. Engagingly handled by Abby Scott, but are you with us in thinking that's just not the kind of room you can really have a party in? In America, it was hype. New Secretary of State Hillary Clinton just had to turn up to work to create a sensation. Political gossip site Gawker posted this video of ABC breakfast host Diane Sawyer, apparently the worse for wear, the morning after the inauguration balls.
You look absolutely beautiful.
But no, Gawker soon apologised. Sawyer hadn't been to a ball, she'd just been kept up reporting for 24 hours. And isn't that why we're all in this game? Because sometimes it makes us that happy. Not so happy in the new era of inclusion, right-wing broadcast demagogues who were reduced to interviewing each other. Here's Fox News' Sean Hannity lobbing questions at talk radio king Rush Limbaugh.
We don't know what he is. That's the whole point. And people don't care what he is.
Quite. Fox was on full alert over this performance in a Washington nightclub the night before the swearing-in. Bill O'Reilly also joined the chorus of voices demanding that Obama address the greatest problem facing America today, the content of hip-hop.
Now, Jay-Z should know better.
Is it wrong that we thought the tune was kind of fat? And finally, less widely reported, of course, was the Obama Inauguration UFO, as captured live on CNN. Miss it? Here it is again. And a close-up. It's definitely not a bird. We're saying it's a breeze block. But it turns out there's a lot we don't know about UFOs and Obama. But before you laugh, the co-leader of President Obama's transition team, John Podesta, is a long-time advocate of the release of so-called UFO files held by the US government. And Obama's maiden executive order, the Presidential Memorandum on Transparency and Open Government, seems to clear the way for any X-files that may exist to be published. So the truth might actually be out there sooner than you think. And on that note, it's time to bring in our panel, which, if not interplanetary, is certainly international. Journalist and blogger Tim Watkin, Obama mania go-to girl Tracy Barnett, and John Dibvig, whose radio live commentaries on the new president constitute a great American journey in themselves. Welcome to you all. Tim, if we could start with you, I was interested that in your blog on the inauguration speech, you focused particularly on the phrase, a new era of responsibility. And that seemed to be picked up by newspapers all over America. I wonder whether you think that was actually intended as the takeaway message.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I think very much that Obama was in a position where he was trying to move from the hype of the stump speech to the responsible speech of governance. And so I think he was very much looking to try and change his tone. It was interesting how sombre it was. There wasn't a lot of the hyperbole. There wasn't the one or two big catch lines as people were desperately trying to anticipate. I think it was a speech that was very much trying to be serious and an interesting one. I think that it was a very global speech, which surprised me. A lot about America's place in the world rather than simply about what America should mean to Americans, which is, you know, different.
And I think we also saw the same attention to message in the issue chosen for the first presidential order, executive order, which was the open government and transparency one. And apparently they looked at Guantanamo, they looked at various other things and said, no, this one.
Absolutely,
it's as good a way as any of keeping journalists on side, doing things like that, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the first big sit-down interview he did this week was with an Arabic TV channel. So he's certainly very much speaking to the world in his first week, which is interesting. It's I think part of what people caught up in the moment were caught up with. Yes, there was the history of the black president. Yes, there was the amazing story of this man's journey from Kenya and Kansas and all of that, but there was also, I think, a lot of the emotion was the Bush leaving part of the scenario and the new day for America, the trying to be proud to be American again. I don't think you can underestimate that.
With reservations.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, Tracy, on the Sunrise coverage, I thought you said something that was very perceptive. You said that as a journalist, I'm someone who works with words for a living, and I have to believe that words mean something, and that's why this guy works for me. And I wonder whether you're not the only journalist in that position. You know.
Well, I think everybody in this profession is a sucker for words, and I think maybe that comment just reflects it. But in general, I think what was interesting about this was I was surprised at how personal this was for me, and I think that's true for millions of Americans, literally hundreds of millions of Americans. I mean, what's interesting about Obama, and I think a real testament to him as a candidate, and now as all the way up to his inauguration, and I would say it's probably going to split part ways at this point, is that Obama has been incredibly adept at being a mirror to everybody else, that a voter looks at Obama and sees themselves in some respect.
Yeah, I thought Andrew Sullivan on The Atlantic put it quite well. He said Obama is someone who is acutely aware of the needs of those around him, and he services those needs very well, whether it's personally or whether it's via the media. Did you cry?
I didn't, because I was on television, but there was a lot of whoop whoops when I was off camera.
Did you cry, John?
Yeah, I did. I welled up a little bit and had to check my emotions. I've been following the Obama story for a little over 2 years now. I do a Letter from America, Alistair Cook here in New Zealand back, you know, on the Graham Hill radio show and Radio Live. And 2 years ago, I read some excerpts on the net from Audacity of Hope. And naturally, yeah, we're all hooked into words and ideas and thoughts. And I thought, you know, goddamn, here's a guy that's really, like you said, speaking to me. I really believe kind of what he's saying, and kind of he seems logical to start with in a lot of ways. And so I on the show a couple years ago.
And let's be clear, you're a lifelong Republican voter.
I'm a Republican. I've always been a Republican. My family's Republican. We're historically Republicans. But, you know, as the drama unplayed, you know, I thought Hillary Clinton her political machine would kill him. I thought she'd chew him up. But it didn't happen. But 2 years ago, I said, you know, you got to watch this guy. This guy's written a great book here. He's idealistic. He's got people going. And the whole thing was, he got people to go out there and knock on doors. And if you can do that, and people were fervent about it. I mean, they were in there. They were doing it. People that never had done it before. You got something going. And
what were your news sources as an expat American in New Zealand? Because you were clearly, you know, on those Radio Live commentaries, you were very keyed into what was happening.
Yeah.
Which isn't always the case in the local media here.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, if you look at the local media is always about a day and a half behind. You know, I mean, I'm plugged in on my net to Boston, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, the Washington Post. I get bombarded with that in the morning. My wife goes nuts because the first thing I do in the morning, instead of, you know, doing whatever I'm supposed to be doing with the kids or whatnot, I'm on the net checking what the headlines are. You know. So
did you see those big newspaper mastheads as honest brokers? Because it seems still that there's a huge partisan divide in the American media. I mean, we saw Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh before.
What, you're going to listen to Fox? You're going to watch Fox? I mean, I watch Fox sometimes at 12 o'clock at night here, and you just go, man, I can't. It's a ping pong game. I can't keep up with it. You know, I'd rather watch the BBC, or I watch the Jim Lehrer PBS report at 10 o'clock on Triangle, and that's you know, you get some good straight news there. David Brooks and Mark Shields. You know, you get a lot of information from that. So I mean, the information's here. You got to search it out. You know, you certainly can't rely just on the Herald. No offense.
There has been a lot of certainly capture, a lot of excitement around through the media. I think you're getting at that a number of journalists in the US have certainly got very excited about this. But I think partly because having been over there for 2 years through the campaign, everyone was just writing Obama off at every point. At some point, the dream was going to end. All of the early interviews were very much those interviews you do with the dream candidate who is never going to make it, the nice, polite interviews. it was always going to be Hillary. And I remember writing the same kind of stories myself, that Obama's got all kinds of great ideas, fascinating candidate, but he's the guy who doesn't quite make it, and Clinton's the one who is the realistic candidate for real times.
And yet he emerged. But now I also get the sense that journalists are very self-conscious about gushing about Obama, because when you look at what happened at the first White House press conference, after Ari Fleischer standing up there for years and batting away questions, these guys went for Obama's guy. They would not, they would not be deflected.
And this is the bounce back again, is that people have got very excited, but now there's so much talk about whether the expectation can live up to the hyperbole. The journalists are now going, right, let's not hold back and let's not make the same mistake we did in the early days of the Bush
administration. They want an end to anonymous White House briefings now. It's like, you got the open government thing. And, yeah. I wonder whether he's setting standards, and I wonder what all of you think, whether with these very clear pronouncements in the first week, he's in danger of setting standards that he may not be able to live up to.
Yeah, but so what? That's that's the audacity of hope. That's the bottom line. Let's reach for it. I remember John F. Kennedy when he said, "We're going to the moon." You thought, yeah, we're going to the moon. But he said it. He said, "We're throwing our hat, we're chasing it, we're going for it." And I think that's part of the American dream, of just chasing for stuff. And there's it's not bad if you fail. Set your standards high and go for it. And if you stumble along, well, stiff bickies, but just keep going.
Tracy, in that interview that we showed before, the Rush Limbaugh one, I thought that Limbaugh said something really interesting. He said, we've lost the culture. We, being the conservative Republicans, the uber conservative, we've lost the culture, we've lost Hollywood, we've lost pop music. His solution did not seem to be to reconcile, it seemed to be to start a whole new culture war. Do you think that's going to happen? Because those people seem up for the fight.
Well, actually, Obama and Rush Limbaugh have already done tit for tat in their first week, which is a lovely little precursor to what's to come, perhaps. I hope not. But I think what's interesting is that Rush Limbaugh is, let's see, how do I explain this? I think what we don't get in New Zealand is, what we do get in New Zealand is really clean, bleached analysis. And what we don't get in New Zealand is the spit in the fire that Americans see when you live there. You get kind of this crazy blathering from Rush Limbaugh, and you get the righteous indignation from Keith Olbermann, and you get the snarky asides from Maureen Dowd. And what Kiwis don't get to read on a daily basis unless they go on the web is how much real spit and passion there is. And I think that's something that really limits our perception of America as this kind of multi-tentacled head. And so when we think of, a good example actually was, I remember you did an excellent show on Afghanistan. Tim, you were one of the panelists. And at one point you talked about what America's idea of winning in Afghanistan. And I remember turning off the set and thinking, well, first of all, who's America? And second of all, what's winning? Because if you ask, even in your own state that you were living in, if you ask somebody in San Francisco County versus Orange County, even within California, there's a huge diversity. And Americans don't see themselves as a singular voice. And I think that's what we miss here. And it's a sorry thing. Yeah,
definitely. Rush Limbaugh is great. I love listening to Rush. I mean, because he is way out there. I like listening to Michael Moore because he's way out there. And Tracy's really right. People here, are a little bit embarrassed about that kind of extremism, and they're out there. And Barrack's coming under a heavy attack now. I was very elated that he said, we welcome the non-believers because we are so in God we trust so much, and God bless America. And I'm there all the way. And I'm a Christian. I got no problems with that. But I got no problems with inviting the non-believers. And now the clergy across the states is he's coming under heavy attack because they're saying he's trying to redefine America because we're a Christian Judeo-based society. And yet,
on the other hand, he grievously upset the liberal blogosphere by having Rick Warren in such a prominent role in the inauguration ceremony.
But he also chose a gay bishop to do a convocation as well. So,
which HBO didn't screen. And no one seems to know why.
Yes, but it's HBO.
But I think the whole point of the Obama campaign was to, and people like Andrew Sullivan picked up on it very early on, was that it moves beyond the culture wars. Is that the Clinton campaign would have still been baby boomers arguing over Vietnam and Roe versus Wade and those same issues over again. Obama is supposed to be the circuit breaker on that. So it's going to be really interesting to watch exactly whether the old guys, the old Washington, can drag him down into the swamp, or whether he can genuinely be a post-partisan president that he wants to be.
And as we speak, as a matter of fact, Obama is meeting with Republicans in the entire House Republican caucus, and that hasn't been done in 8 years. Bush would never think to do something like that. So that's pretty unprecedented stuff, even to begin with. And he sat there with a room of his potential enemies, batting back questions, and he met for 2 hours.
Which is much more like Congress in the 50s
you
and
just
60s.
know on Capitol Hill, there's just a whole bunch of old gray-haired guys going goddamn whippersnapper, young punk coming in here. You know that's gonna, they're gonna loggerheads on that, just on age difference and gender difference.
Well, that's why Ezra Emanuel to bust his chops.
But you mentioned Fox News before, clearly not Obama's best friend. But there is also the sense that Rupert Murdoch knows which side his bread's buttered on, and he likes to be with the zeitgeist. Do you think that, any of you think there's going to be some sort of direction from the proprietor to Fox News to tone it down at any point? Or will he just let that editorial line run?
No.
There's
a huge audience. There's a huge audience for that.
I can't see him tone it down because, like I say, I think Rush Limbaugh's an idiot. But I'll listen to him, Howard Stern's an idiot, but I'll listen to him. Michael Moore, I'm not on his side, but...
John, what are you doing with your time?
I listen a lot. But, even, Bill O'Reilly, you're not going to knock him down. He's popular. People like it. They'll tune in.
46% of Americans still didn't vote for Obama, so, let's not get
Well, that's an interesting thing, because I get a lot of people on this side of the world saying, hey, Obama didn't really win big, He only won by a few million votes, He should have just kicked the guy's ass. And you're going, listen, you have no idea what America is. America is split right down the middle. Half of us are very conservative, and then there's a whole bunch of liberals and other little things there, but half are very conservative. They're always going to vote, no matter what, for the conservative side.
We'll talk about public opinion after the break, but we do have to take a break now, and we will continue the discussion soon.